sometimes a guy gets a knee sprain and he plays in a week. Sometimes it takes a month. It's just a matter of how they respond to the treatment. And they're skilled players, so it's a little different than a lineman having a little bit of a knee problem. I mean, all the linemen you see are out there with knee braces on, and they're playing, with a lot of injuries. But it's hard when you're a running back and you're a receiver to play with a bad knee. So we'll hope for the best, and whoever's available, that's what we'll go with.
You talked about the physicality of that Shepherd game, so we bring up Brown and Stewart. How about anybody else coming out of that game? They've had some time to heal.
Yeah, that's basically what, we had some guys that were banged up from that game. Probably would have played if we played a game last week, but they needed some time off also. So, hopefully the week off will help us. You do worry about, having a little bit of a layoff and not, keeping your edge, so to speak. So hopefully we can, practice well this week and get our edge back.
The practice schedule, so we have this week and you have Thanksgiving.
Right.
How are you handling it this week?
Well, we'll practice, we practice today, we'll practice Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll practice Thursday morning. And we've always done this here over Thanksgiving. We have a lot of practice at it, so to speak. We let the guys go Thursday after practice if they want to go home, within an hour and a half. And we give them 24 hours. Then they have to be back Friday around noon. So if they get out of here by noon on Thursday, they can spend time with their families. And most of them will take a lot of kids with them. And then we'll have, some of the kids here that don't go anywhere, we'll have a Thanksgiving dinner for them during the day, obviously Thursday, and everybody will be back Friday at noon. And so we'll practice Tuesday and Wednesday, light practice Thursday morning, and a practice Friday afternoon. I mean, that's just kind of the way we've always done it here, whether it was home or away. I remember the one year our kids came back at Thursday night, and we left at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to New Haven. And
that is a murderous trip, too.
And that was a murderous trip, but we got the W that year, too. So that's just the way we've done it. That's the way Coach Signetti did it. We did that with Kurt. We did it with Coach Tepper. We've done that here, with me as the head coach. And they get away for a little bit, but not too long.
So that's nothing new, but that's okay because that means you're in the playoffs.
Right.
The announcement of the PSAC All-Stars came out last week. I want to congratulate you being named the PSAC West Coach of the Year, third time. I know you give a lot of credit to your coaches.
Right.
Dwayne Brown named Offensive Player of the Year.
Right.
12 guys, 12 listed as All-Stars. Maybe just some comments about these guys.
Well, I think there's a lot of good players in our conference. And I think mostly at all the positions, for us, I can only speak truly of our guys. Most of our guys got the recognition, and I saw a lot of other guys from other teams who deserve the recognition get it too. It's never a perfect model, but it's good when you have team success. There's also a lot of individual success that comes with it. A player gets a player of the year. They really earn it. Like the instance of coach of the year, that's a program award. I mean, that's players, that's coaches, that's managers, that's trainers, that's the whole organization. I mean, it really is. Whereas if a player, obviously, if I'm a receiver and I'm all conference, I probably had a good quarterback. If I'm a good running back and I make all conference, I probably had a pretty good offensive line. So a lot of these awards sometimes, individually for players, they deserve it, but they get help. And then, coaching awards is, I'm just one piece of the puzzle, to be honest with you. And I got a great staff, great trainer, great equipment manager, great manager, really good players, administration backing. So it's like I said to somebody, it's like, to get that award, it takes a whole village to get it, to be honest with you, because you have to be in line. One thing I learned as a head coach, the alignment is truly important, and it starts, with everybody in your whole organization from top to bottom. And I think we have that here at IUP.
Now, I got to bring this up. Noticeably absent was Mac Sexton.
Right.
I don't know how that can happen, but explain, first of all, the voting, how the voting comes about.
Here's the way it goes. I can't vote for any of our players. So, if I could have, I would have voted Mac for all conference. I mean, I personally think he's the best quarterback in our conference. And I say that strictly because I look at two things with a quarterback. Number one, how many wins did they? I mean, the quarterback's touching the ball every play, so you better win some games. And number two, what's your pass efficiency? He's third in the country in pass efficiency. Not in the he's number one in the PSAC, but third in the country in pass efficiency. And he's the quarterback that won the PSAC championship. So, I brought him in the day after the voting, and I'll be honest with you, it was it wasn't a big deal at all to him. And it didn't surprise me because that's the way he is.
If anybody
he could have got voted Heisman Trophy Award winner or got nothing. He acts the same way. It was almost like I was wasting his time explaining it to him. But really, I'm being very serious. He understands, he gets it, and all he wants to do is win. And like I told him, look, it is what it is. We think you're a great quarterback. We put all our eggs in your basket. And we've won the PSAC, which is one of our first goals, and our next goal is now the playoffs, and let's concentrate on that. And he almost, in a nice way, acted like I was wasting his time.
Well, anybody that knows him or has met him, we're not surprised. I mean, he's got that just great disposition. Here, this is a question from one of our fans sent over to me. Tort, you alternate 8 defensive linemen. Why not alternate offensive linemen during the course of the season?
Right. Well, if you have them, you would. I mean, we have them, but they're not anywhere near the same It's different when you're defensive line's very taxing, especially if you're playing a team that throws the ball a lot. You look anywhere in the country, professional football, Power 5 football, wherever. We played Gannon, for instance. They played with 3 down linemen. They used 9 guys against us. Most teams use 8 for those 4 positions in the defensive line. The teams we play, to be honest with you, Shepherd, Slippery, every team we play, we see 5 linemen. And, we play with 6, rotating in a little bit with Chad Layton, and we use Santiago a little bit. But I think if you went and looked at all the teams in the PSAC, that's very normal that you're playing with 8 defensive linemen for 4 positions, but that offensive line, pretty much is those 5.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be back with you. We're on Hawk Talk. This is the playoff version. We've got Ashland and IUP on Saturday. I do want to mention to you, if you have not been notified, we'll pass it along to you if you're a season ticket holder. If you've got to purchase your season ticket holders have to buy a ticket, but it's a 2-for-1 deal because you can go next door to the KCAC over there and see basketball right afterwards. The nationally ranked team, Joe Lombardi's team, that's a 4:30 game with New Haven, so you're getting a double whammy there to be good day for IUP sports and for you fans here at home. We're going to be back in a moment. We're coming to you live from the Hilton Garden Inn as we do each and every Monday, Hawk Talk. And we'll return on U92Radio.com and also on the U92 Facebook page.
C.H. Field's Craft Kitchen in the Hilton Garden Inn is this area's best-kept secret. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, dinner, happy hour, or for their post-game specials. Make your reservations for C.H. Field's Craft Kitchen in the Hilton Garden Inn at chfields.com. The Hilton Garden Inn is the preferred hotel of IUP Athletics. Located next to Miller Stadium and the KCAC, the Hilton Garden Inn is Indiana's newest and best hotel. Make your reservations today at hiltongardeninn.com.
Come join us in celebrating our grandfather Red Dowd's induction into the Indiana County Business Hall of Fame.
To celebrate, we can't think of anything better than to combine two of Dowd's most popular sales.
To honor his legacy and celebrate our 72nd anniversary, we're offering up to 72% off selected floor sample clearance items. Plus, save on all custom orders with every other item up to 1/2 off.
Come celebrate with us, Dowds of Plumville and Dowds of Greensburg.
We're back with you live, Hawk Talk from the Hilton Garden Inn. Jack Benedict with Coach Paul Tortorella. Ashland IUP, Saturday, 1 o'clock in the NCAA playoffs. Always an exciting time, no question. And right now, the weather, man, looks favorable. Of course, boy, last week that was something else, wasn't it? That second half was brutal. I don't know anybody got anything done, but it was a tremendous game against Shepherd. I have like two questions rolled into one from fans. One of the questions is, what Ashland players are the playmakers on offense and defense?
Well, their quarterback, Austin Brenner, is a 4-year starter. He played against us in 2018 when we played him at Ashland. He was, I believe, a true freshman then. Maybe he was a redshirt freshman. I'm not sure. I think he was a true freshman. He's very athletic. Does a great job running their offense. They'll use him as a runner. He's very efficient throwing the ball. Both their running backs, Martin and Washington. If you take Martin and Washington together, plus Brenner running the ball, not counting sacks or anything, they're over 2,000 yards rushing with those three. So they'll run the quarterback. They have a receiver, Bolin, that's their career receptions leader all time at Ashland. He played on the 18 team. And they have a tackle, number 72. His last name, I can't remember his last, Posey. He started as a freshman against us. So on offense, they have three guys that played against us in 2018. Defensively, they got a linebacker, number 5, great player. He's been player of the year in their league defensively for 2 years in a row. They've got an edge guy, Barnett. They've got 5 or 6 all-conference players over there on defense. They've got a freshman kicker that's really good. Probably the best offensive line, without a doubt, that we'll play against this year. Not even close. They're really good up front. They play with a lot of tight ends. They're a really good team, and they're very well coached. But the receiver, Boland's their leading receiver. Brenner runs the show at quarterback. Very athletic, runs the ball a lot. Very efficient throwing the ball. And they got the 1-2 punch at running back with Martin and Washington. I think Martin had over 1,100 yards, and Washington might have had 500, and Brenner had 400. So they're at 2,000 yards rushing. They have ran the ball for more yards than passed the ball for more yards. Now, some people take it, they can't pass. No, they just run really well. We haven't played anybody this year that has run for more yards than they've passed for. So that's a different dynamic that we have to get ready for, and it's not because they can't throw the ball. They're just really good at running the ball.
Well, the first thing that hit me when I looked at the stats from their game with Notre Dame was the fact that Brenner threw only 15 times.
Well,
and then to look further, as you're saying, when you're rushing for 200 a game.
Right. Well, they had 250 against Notre Dame this game. They had 350 when they played them in the opener rushing. And the other thing is they play a lot of guys on offense. They have their line, their 5 offensive linemen. They play with 4 different tight ends. They play with 5 or 6 receivers, and they actually use 3 or 4 running backs. So they play a lot of players on offense.
When I looked at their roster, a lot of teams will have double numbers.
Right.
Offense. I've never seen a team that has more double numbers. So you have a limit, don't you, in the playoffs? 53 dress?
58.
58.
Right. So they had to get to that for their Notre Dame game, I'm sure. I look at their 2 deep. They're similar to us in that they've got 95% of their kids are from the state of Ohio. I'd say 95% of our kids are from the state of Pennsylvania. So, they've got 10 seniors starting, 5 on offense, 5 on defense. So they got a lot of older guys like us in regards. Those 10 senior starters are 5- and 6-year guys. Like I said, 3 of them started when we played them in 2018. So They're very experienced. They have a couple young kids, but they're not playing a lot of freshmen. Even their backups are older kids. So I think this was probably with the quarterback. Here's the other thing is, the first year we played him, their quarterback, I can't remember his name, but I think he was up for the Harlan Hill. He was a 4-year starter. So when we played him, he was a senior. It was his 4th-year starter. So then Brenner came in 18, and they actually had a transfer that started the game against us and played the first quarter. And then they put Brenner in the second quarter, and he's been their quarterback ever since. So they've had 2 quarterbacks for 8 years. They had a 4-year starter, and now this guy's a 4-year starter. So that's like, that's hard to. I mean, there might not be another team in the whole country that has that.
Well, I looked at how many transfers. They don't go that route.
No, they're 95% of their kids are from really good high schools in Ohio. Ohio has great high school football, much like Pennsylvania. They've got a couple kids on defense, a Florida kid, a kid from the state of Washington, a kid from Nashville, Tennessee. But like I said, 95% of their team are high school players. Now they've got a couple transfers that are Ohio high school kids that went, and now they're back. Like I think they got a transfer from Akron, which is obviously right down the road from Ashland. But he's an Ohio kid, so they're very similar to us in their roster management. They're just fortunate that for the last 8 years they've only had 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, you can't. Well, that's where it all starts,
right?
As we know. You talked about the 2 running backs. This Larry Martin with over 1,100. He's listed as 5'8", 206. The other guy, Giovanni Washington, is 5'7", 175.
Right.
So, what do we have? A power runner and a speed runner?
I mean, somewhat, but Martin's got speed, and Washington runs with power. They're shorter guys, which, in a way, they're hard to see, behind their big offensive line. They run hard. They don't turn the ball over. They're I think they've had, in 11 games, they've had 14 turnovers total. So, like I've always said, they're very well coached. They don't turn the ball over. Their penalties, very low in penalties. They're very solid. They've got a really good kicking game. Like they make you beat them. They're not going to give you anything.
This is a solid program. We were out there a couple of years ago, of course, great facility and everything.
Right.
Since then, haven't they added an athletic?
They have an indoor facility. They had their building on the one side, which we saw, and it was fairly new when we were there in 18. And I think in 20, right before COVID hit, I think they finished their indoor facility that's on the other side of the stadium. It's interesting because when we were there, the other side of the stadium had trees and it was like woods back there. Now there's a parking lot and an indoor facility back there, which, you can, in this part of the country,
sure,
they're practicing inside when the weather's bad. So they're very, they've got good resources. Indoor facilities probably at the top of the list. They've got a football-only building. That building in the back of their end zone, that's just football.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing else in that building, I believe. So, I know they've got a lot of alums that are very important in the state of Ohio, and they take their football seriously. And and the other thing, Coach Owens has been there a long time. His staff has been there a long time. It's a very solid program year in and year out. And, it's when you're there a long time, you build up a donor,
sure,
capacity for donorship. And, and I don't know how the whole deal behind the indoor facility, but, it's a nice facility.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what exactly was the move they made, because they changed conferences during the GMAC now.
Right. I really don't know. I remember when they were in the GLIAC, and then I want to say after we played them the second time, when we played them in 17, they went on to the playoffs in Northwest Missouri, Ferris States region, and beat Northwest Missouri in the playoffs at Ashland. And then 2018, I don't think they made the playoffs, but they were still, I believe, in the GLIAC. And I think since then they've joined the GMAC. I think that's how it has transpired. Yeah. And that's probably makes way more sense for them. Travel-wise, and you got Tiffin, and you got Findlay. I mean, there's Ohio schools in that. Most of the other places are Michigan schools.
I saw they play Kentucky Wesleyan.
They're in there, Kentucky Wesleyan. Hillsdale's in Indiana. They're in that league. Ohio Dominican. That makes sense there. They're in that.
Yes.
This league makes a lot more sense for them, I would think, rather than going to play in the Michigan. I mean, like, if they play Northern Michigan in a GLIAC game, I don't know. It's got to be like a 10-hour bus trip to. Like, you keep going, you just end up in whatever lake that is, and they'll never see you again.
That's an all-week trip. That's what that might be. Well, we're going to be back with Coach Tort. We have more. We're going to talk more about Ashland. We're going to talk about the Gridiron Club coming up a little bit later on. We're going to do that. And if you guys and gals here have any questions, just write them up and pass them on to us, and we'll turn it over to the coach here. 1 o'clock kickoff is coming up on Saturday. We'll be on there on U92Radio.com at 12:30. And then, of course, we'll have the basketball game for you against New Haven. And so that'll be a big day for IUP football and basketball. We're back in a moment. We talk more with the coach. Hawk Talk coming your way from the Hilton Garden Inn on U92Radio.com and also on the U92 Facebook page.
Show your IUP spirit and get your hawk on with help from the Co-op Store, your one-stop location for all your IUP swag and apparel. Check out Norm's Bargain area for $25 fleeces and hoodies. Logo tees only $9.99. The Co-op Store is also the alumni headquarters. IUP is always in your heart, so put something on your front and back that shows that alumni spirit. IUP logoed water bottles, coffee mugs, spirit items for your dorm or man cave. And don't forget the Oak Grove collection. Get your hawk on at the Co-op Store or find them online at IUPstore.com.
At IRMC, we have all of the necessary pieces in place to perform complex operations, including highly skilled and specially trained surgeons, their support team of experts, and advanced technology like the Da Vinci robotic surgical system. As a result, patients spend less time in the hospital, recover faster, and get treated close to home. So there's no reason to puzzle over where you should get your surgical care. The answer is right here at IRMC.
Welcome back, everybody. Hawk Talk, Jack Benedict, Coach Paul Tortorella. We talk about IUP. We talk about Ashland. They're 10-1, IUP 9-1. You've described a lot of good descriptions of this Ashland team. We have a couple of video shots that we got from the Ashland people, and both offensively and defensively. We picked up on one. With a sack here of the Notre Dame Ohio quarterback in the game last week. That's here's the defensive play here. This is the Notre Dame quarterback. Ashland's in purple as we view the video, and then coming from the backside, number 2's got him, and it's a sack. Now, I believe, I didn't write it down here, but memory served me, they have like 33 sacks.
Yeah, they got 33 sacks. That's Barnett. He has 5.5. They actually have a guy that's listed on their 2 deep as a second-team defensive lineman, Olawan. He has 7 sacks. Barnett, number 2's a defensive end. He has 5.5 sacks and very active, 8.5 tackles for a loss. Ayers, the linebacker's got 11 quarterback hurries.
That's a lot.
3 sacks. Well, he's all over the place. He runs. He's very similar to the Seton Hill linebacker that was Player of the Year in our league. Mm-hmm. Very similar. Not quite as big as the Seton Hill linebacker, but Ayers is fast. He's all over the field. He gets his hands on the ball a lot. With pass breakups. I think he has 7 pass breakups and 11 quarterback hurries. So he's blitzing or, containing the quarterback and hurrying the throw, and then he's getting his hands involved, on the ball in pass coverage. So that's why he's Player of the Year. He's the Defensive Player of the Year in that league the last 2 years, and they're very good in the secondary. They got 3 or 4 really good players back there. The other linebacker, Myers, is a very good player. They're veteran. Their secondary's older guys, so that they've played a lot of football.
They're just a solid program is what they are. So,
right.
And they just seem to be defensively, their numbers are great too,
right.
team-wise. By the way, our video, we want to credit the Ashland University folks for sending that to our guy John Smathers and all. On the offensive side, we talked about their quarterback,
right.
Brennan, the veteran who's been there and started a couple of years ago, and then he has started ever since. John, we want to roll those too, give you an idea. We talked about the running backs, but we've got to be aware of the quarterback, the way that he can run the football.
Yeah, he's a dual threat. They use him in their run game a lot. They have different quarterback runs with them. Quarterback draw is kind of a basic thing. There's on the boot. If you don't contain him, he'll run it. He runs this one in for a touchdown. He's definitely a dual threat quarterback. When it's a pass, you got to watch that he doesn't run the ball. And they also have, called runs for him. They'll run quarterback counter. They'll run quarterback sweep. They'll run quarterback power. So they can get an extra blocker when he's running the ball. So he's dangerous in more ways than just throwing the ball. And then when it's a pass, you got to worry about him scrambling. Mm-hmm. He's hurt people on third down. I've watched. I'm kind of tired of watching them run for first downs on third down, scrambling for first downs in their league. So he'll be a handful because, like I said, it's not just, a lot of the quarterbacks we've played this year are drop back in the pocket quarterbacks. Gannon's guy's a little bit more dual threat. He'll run it. He'll scramble. They had quarterback runs with him. Early in the year, East Stroudsburg in the opener, they ran the quarterback a little bit, mm-hmm. but we haven't seen a lot of that. We've seen mostly drop-back quarterbacks. We haven't seen a lot of smash-mouth type football either, where this team wants to run the ball. They have more yardage running than throwing. We haven't played anybody even close to that.
This is old school football.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's, they'll come in with 3 tight ends, one play, and then the next play they'll have 1 tight end and 3 wide outs. Then there'll be, they'll come in, they'll get in 4. They're in a lot of different formations and groupings, but they have a 84 who's their, base tight end, but they have 3 or 4 other tight end H-backs that play a lot too in their formations. So they're really tough to get a beat on because they're in so many different personnel groupings and formations.
Is there any opponent from the PSAC similar to Ashland? None at all.
No. That's the thing that stands out. Now, defensively, they're very similar to a lot of teams we play. Mm-hmm. They're really good. I'd say it's probably the best defense we're going to face.
Is that because mostly, other than talent, experience?
Yeah, and they play a 4-down scheme. Their defense is very similar to ours in regards to their structure. The defensive coordinator's been coaching college football for 40 years. He was a Division I head coach at Miami of Ohio, I believe, and at NC State. So he's been around a long time, and he runs their defense. Coach Owens is more of an offensive guy, but they have a really solid offensive coordinator. Again, their staff's been together for a long time, but their defense is similar to what we do. Offensively, they're not anything like anybody we play in the league, in our league. They're they get in heavy formations and they want to run the football to set up the pass. A lot of the people we play in our league pass the ball to set up the run. Mm-hmm. And now when you add the quarterback into the run game, that's an issue. And then when you add the quarterback potentially scrambling in the pass game, that's another issue. Mm-hmm. So, we've got our hands full defense. We've got our hands full in general. Mm-hmm. But for our defense, it's a little bit different. It's a different scheme somewhat, but more different personnel. We've seen a lot of 10 personnel, 4 wide, spread, the lay of the land, so to speak. Ashland is not, they'll get in 11 personnel and 10 personnel, but they like to run the ball out of, 2-3 tight end sets, and they're really good at it.
Come right at you.
Yeah, they'll come right at you.
You mentioned about Coach Owens, Lee Owens, 19th year at Ashland, 38th overall, and there's some association there, too.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. And, of course, he was at Akron, and it involves also Coach Condino, right?
Yeah. I had been at Akron working with Jerry Faust, and Jerry was let go, and Coach Owens got the job, and he retained me. And I was there for about 3 weeks, and then Frank Signetti called me and offered me the defensive coordinator job. And I was at a point in my career where it was time for me to be a coordinator. I was very thankful that Coach Owens retained me. I was the only one that he kept on the staff. But this opportunity came up closer to home, chance for me to go back home, and I wanted to be a coordinator. I was coaching the secondary at Akron back then, and it was just, one of those things that didn't bother me going to Division II from Division I. I wasn't really into that. I just wanted to have a chance to be a defensive coordinator, and thinking, every assistant coach says they don't really care about being a head coach, but they really do. And it's hard to become a head coach if you're never a coordinator. So I know Lee. He's a good man. Great coach. Like I said, I worked for him for about 3 weeks, and he did a really good job there at Akron. That's not an easy job. It's not an easy job. And and I was there for 3 years with Jerry Faust, and the type of job it is my first year there we were 8-3, and we beat 2 Power 5 teams, and my third year there we were 1-10. So that's how goes to show you in 2 years what can happen with that job. It's not an easy job, and he did a really good. He was there a while, and then I think after he left there, he went to Ashland. He was a coach at Massillon. He was a high school coach in the state of Ohio. He was at a bunch of different high schools as a younger coach. I think he was the youngest head coach ever at Massillon, maybe.
I don't know, but I know
he was at Ohio State for a while as an assistant.
Okay.
I think that's where he came from when he came to Akron. He was at Ohio State as an assistant. So he's got a great resume and a lot of pedigree, and he's got a great staff. And you look at his overall record, it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it is. There's no question. I think I read where he has over 300 wins, college and high school.
Yeah.
So the thing that I see with the similarities here with IUP and Ashland is the fact of 2 very solid programs for a long time.
Right.
And maybe these are teams that are not spectacular, flamboyant.
Right.
But it's the type of football that's been winning football both ways. And now you're going to play them the next 4 years.
Right. So we're going to see a lot of each other here the next 4 or 5 years. I was really happy that we got that deal, and I'll put it out there. 28 playoff teams this year, 11 of them, including Ashland, only played 10 games. Because I kept hearing it for 2 years, how you're not playing an 11th game, you're not playing an 11th game, you're not playing an 11th game, you're not playing an 11th game. Well, there were 28 playoff teams this year, and 11 of them played 10 games or less, including Ashland. So that's not the be-all, end-all. But when we had the chance to marry up with Ashland with a 4-year deal, we jumped on it, because it was a great 2-year deal with them. We played 2 great games. We were fortunate to win both of them. I mean, they both came down to the last minute of the game, last second in the first game. The second game there, we had to stop them on our 30-yard line with a minute to go to win by 4. So very easily, they were a play away from winning. And, we had to kick a field goal on the last play of the game, obviously, to win the first one. So, 2 great games that could have went either way. So I would expect probably this one's going to be the same way.
I look back in that game in 2018, Ricky Rogers.
Right. He had three touchdowns
Three
that night.
touchdown
Yep.
catches that day. So he's going to be the answer in years to come of a great trivia question, I'm sure. But, the series at 26-23 and then 21-17. And the thing is, too, what you're looking at next year, where this year we just had the opener, the 2 games on the road. You're going to have 3 games at home to begin the 2023 season.
Right. Yeah, that's the way it ended up. As long as when you only play 10 games, you got to watch when you play 3 in a row on the road or 3 in a row at home. But when you play an 11-game schedule, there's a little more flexibility. But really, I mean, at the end of the day, the 11th game is important, but sometimes it's not. It's important when you play. Let's just say this: it's important when you play somebody good. I mean, playing somebody that's not very good just to get a win. I'm not really into that.
How did it work out whenever you guys were talking, Ashland and IUP, about home and home?
Well, I think it worked out best maybe that we played the first and the third year at home and then second and fourth year at Ashland. That's more between Todd and Al King. I mean, that's above my pay grade. So, as long as it was 2-2, that's all that mattered. Let's put it this way. I probably wouldn't agree to a 4-year deal with anybody else, to be honest with you. Because I know every year Ashland's going to be really good. They're very well coached. They're a great program. We have a lot of respect for them. They do things the right way. They have a great facility when we go play on the road. They're a first-class operation. So if you can get a 4-year deal with a program like that, I think it's a positive.
You take it, yeah. And our old buddy Al King out there, who's been the AD for a while now, has worked his way up. We're glad to see that, and we'll be looking forward to seeing him. If you have any questions here, you can pass them along to me. I do have something here from one of our listeners had sent me a text that asked the coach at this point of the season, how much of your game plan is based on just doing what you do best or looking at the weaknesses of the opposition?
Well, that's a great question. I think you get to a certain point that this late in the year, you got to do what you do, but you also have to take into account what the other team does. But I think you can be too much one way or too much the other way. You could be stubborn and say, well, this is what we do. We're going to do it, and let's go play. Well, it might not match up against your opponent. Or you could be the other way and try to get the perfect call on offense and defense every play and try to match up different things all the time and forget about what you've done well. And so that I don't think you want to go that way either. So it's probably a decent. Late in the year, it's more of a mix where I'm sure you're going to err on the side of doing what you do, but you can't just do what you do against the team. Like Ashland's offense is so much different than anybody we've played. So that's a whole different dynamic right there in itself. And even though they're very similar to us defensively and to people we play, they have some different strengths than other people, and you got to, the game is about matchups, and if it matches up for you to do well what you've been doing well, then that's what you do. But sometimes you got to change a little bit, and tweak it, and because it might not match up against what they do. But so I guess it's a long answer I could have made it a lot shorter. I think it's a little bit of both. You tweak it, to try to match up against your opponent, but also don't forget about what you've done well all year either.
Yeah, don't throw that away. How about special teams are so important? Right. Their kicking game, return game, right. And are you satisfied with what your guys have done?
The one negative against Shepherd is we did not do a good job on either kickoff team. We did a great job on both punt teams, but we didn't cover kicks very well. We played on short fields after kickoffs. And then we had long fields on our return's been great most of the year, but we weren't very good against Shepherd. I mean, we started the second half with the ball on our own 8-yard line because we had a penalty on our kickoff return, and that led to the 92-yard drive. So we put our offense in a really bad spot to start the second half against Shepherd. And then don't forget, after we took a 7-0 lead against Shepherd, we kicked off into the win, and Ronnie Brown took it to our 30-yard line. And they went in and scored on that possession. So our kickoff teams were not very good on either side of the ball against Shepherd. We got to get that cleaned up. Other than that, I think we've been pretty solid. Ashland's really good special teams. They've got a lot of depth. So they've got good guys on special teams. They've got a really good field goal kicker that's a freshman. Their backup quarterback's their punter. He's averaging over 40 yards a punt. They've got good returners. They're really good in special teams too. And I think when you look at how solid a team is, watch them on special teams. If they're pretty good on special teams, then they're a solid football team.
If Dwayne Brown can play this week, even some,
right,
would you still use him as a punt returner?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of, if he plays, he plays.
Okay.
It's like we're not going to, hold him back. If he doesn't play, he doesn't play. We don't want to get into that. Well, we're just going to play him a little bit, because we got other guys that have played. Dan Debner stepped up and played a great game in his place against Shepherd, and we had the tight end step up, and we just, you got to be healthy to play this game. It's a tough, and right now nobody's healthy. I mean, everybody's banged up. But if you're not close to 100%, you're going to struggle out there, no matter who you are. So we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, we're going to be back. We have another segment to go, and we'll talk more about the Ashland IUP game coming up. 1 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. We're coming to you live, as always, from beautiful Hilton Garden Inn. Glad to have you participate throughout the season. We are on our postseason show today and for next week, too. Back with the Coach Tortorella in just a moment. Here on Hawk Talk on U92Radio.com, also on the U92 Facebook page.
C.H. Field's Craft Kitchen in the Hilton Garden Inn is this area's best-kept secret. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, dinner, happy hour, or for their post-game specials. Make your reservations for C.H. Field's Craft Kitchen in the Hilton Garden Inn at chfields.com. The Hilton Garden Inn is the preferred hotel of IUP Athletics. Located next to Miller Stadium and the KCAC, the Hilton Garden Inn is Indiana's newest and best hotel. Make your reservations today at hiltongardeninn.com.
Come join us in celebrating our grandfather Red Dowd's induction into the Indiana County Business Hall of Fame.
To celebrate, we can't think of anything better than to combine two of Dowd's most popular sales.
To honor his legacy and celebrate our 72nd anniversary, we're offering up to 72% off selected floor sample clearance items. Plus, save on all custom orders with every other item up to 1/2 off.
Come celebrate with us, Dowd's of Plumville and Dowd's of Greensburg.
We're back with the final segment of Hawk Talk, coming to you live from the Hilton Garden Inn. Glad to have you along all season long. We want to continue this as long as we can with Coach Paul Tortorella. There's a question that was just posed to us about band members. And
well,
they want to know
I know
if you can sign them up.
I know they'll give great effort and they'll be fired up. I can guarantee you that, because they do a great job and they're fired up. Now, putting a uniform on them might be a little different. But I'll tell you what, they've been a huge difference in how we've played it. Really, last year we did not play very well at home. This year we've played well at home, and I think they're a big part of it. I really do.
And the attendance has been great.
And the attendance has been great. Yeah, I mean, they've been a big part of it.
And, of course, the students, but it's not only here. It's all over,
It's Thanksgiving weekend.
Thanksgiving weekend, but we've gone through this many times before. Slippery Rock, Shepherd, just your thoughts about what we might see in that game. I thought both those other games, low scoring last week.
Yeah, they were all good, close games, good defense. New Haven played Shepherd tough, which I thought they would. Slippery Rock went up to Assumption, tough trip deserved to win that game. They jumped on them early and got up by 10 in the first half. And then the Ashland-Notre Dame game was a battle. I mean, they that was a one-score game the whole game, both ways. Ashland doesn't turn the ball over. They turned the ball over the first 2 times they had the ball, and they recovered from that. So that goes to show you what type of resiliency to the type of team that they have. Older veterans, leadership, experience, that they could overcome turning the ball over on their first 2 series. Their defense stepped up and only gave up 3 points. And then they got it going on offense and took the lead. But it was always pretty much a one-score game throughout the whole game. And it was a real windy, cold day there. Really, the wind played a big factor in the game, it looked like.
I know that Ashland had beaten Notre Dame in the first game of the year by a wider margin. Is Notre Dame, I haven't done a whole lot of research on them, was that a good matchup for them, comparable matchup?
Yeah, I mean, the first time they played, Ashland went up on them 17-0. The game was the opener. It was at Ashland. Notre Dame came back and made it 17-14 in the fourth quarter. Then Ashland finished strong, played a great fourth quarter, and won 31-14. This game, it was never more than a one-score game just about. And then Ashland finished the deal in the fourth quarter. Their kicker made a big field goal to put them up 7, and then they stopped them twice. Notre Dame had the ball twice with a chance to tie it, and Ashland's defense stepped up and stopped them both times. So, they deserved it. It was a good game. Both teams, it was a very well-played game. Other than the first 2 turnovers at the beginning of the game, it was a pretty well-played game. Penalties are going to happen. But Ashland, I think, is averaging 45 yards in penalties a game. The first time we played Ashland, we both had 1 penalty in the game, and we opened the season in 2017 against Ashland. We both had 1 penalty, and neither of us turned the ball over. So it was like one of the best played first games maybe in the history of football. That was one of the best games openers that I've ever been around.
Well, I think it's one of the best games ever played at Miller Stadium.
Right, and it was a night game, which we don't do a lot. It was a Thursday night, and it just was it was a well-played game. The kicking game, both kicking games played well. And I knew that they had a good team. They went and got into the playoffs, beat Northwest Missouri, and they lost I think the day we beat Assumption to go to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken, I think they lost to Harding. And then Harding went to the Final Four. I could be wrong, but I know they beat, if you beat Northwest Missouri, that's a big win.
Oh, absolutely. I got to ask you about the Gridiron Club.
Right.
Because I've had some fans ask me about the contact. Some have been contacted, some haven't. Tell us.
Well, it's kind of, what's happened is with Wally Stapleton retiring, he was the lead guy on the Gridiron Club, so it's kind of not falling through the cracks, but the organization has kind of, been fractured a little bit. But if anybody's interested, all they have to do is email Eric Temple, Eric Templeton. It's etemple@iup.edu, and he'll get the whole process started again. Some people want to renew. Some people are new that want to get in. We've had a lot of renewals that just by word of mouth, but if you really want to, get locked in, if you email Eric Templeton, etemple@iup.edu, he'll set it up and he'll take it and run, take it and run with it.
Yeah, anybody can contact me if you'd like, and I'll talk with Eric. I see him, quite often too. I do want to remind the fans about the football tickets to attend the game this week. You've got to buy tickets. The season tickets do not hold. Buy tickets, but it's a 2-for-1 deal because you're going to get the basketball game free right afterwards at 4:30. Just show your football ticket, you get in free, and it's a good deal, terrific deal. And also the co-op stores stepped in and helped out with the students as far as that is concerned. So, we hope to have really a good crowd. Right now, weather-wise, it looks like it's going to be in the 40s. Maybe a little precip. I don't know. I don't think we're going to hit anything like last week.
Yeah. That was a tough, it was a tough day to play. It was a tough game to begin with, and then the weather wasn't great, so both teams had to battle the weather. And it's the same for everybody. You know, it was raining when they had the ball, and it was raining when we had the ball. You know, so I mean, it doesn't stop when the other team gets the ball. So it just is what it is. I mean, you know, Slippery Rock wasn't a great day when we played them at home, but really, other than those 2 games, we've played in pretty good weather all year.
Very good lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky. Yeah. When you look back at the beginning of the year, we thought that your team was not highly ranked preseason. Right. Of course, there was a question about who was going to be the quarterback, that sort of thing. But when you looked at the nucleus of this team, could you envision them coming to this point?
Yeah, I really could, because of our veteran leadership and experience. You know, it was funny. Somebody brought this up to me yesterday. They showed me the top 30 rankings before the season started. Out of the top 30, there's only 9 teams in that top 30 still playing. Like, we weren't in the top 30. Ashland wasn't in the top 30. I don't know. Probably Benedict was. I mean, there's 7 teams still playing, or what is it? 16. Yeah, there's 9 that were in.
Sweet 16.
And 7 that weren't even ranked in the top 30 that are still now in the final 16, with us and Ashland both being in that category. So, you know, it's hard, especially at the Division II level, before anybody plays a game to rank. Like, I could see ranking a top 25 after 5 games in Division II, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, the opinions don't really matter. It's preparation and action. You know, and I thought, you know, when we overcame some things in our opener at East Stroudsburg, you know, I thought that showed something, and then we started playing better as the year went on, and played some tough games against Slippery Rock and Cal. Lost a tough game on the road at Gannon, and the same thing happened with Ashland. They played 2 tough games against Ohio Dominican and Tiffin, and then they went to play Hillsdale on the road, and they got knocked off. But you know, I watched Ohio State this weekend almost lose to Maryland. I watched Michigan almost lose to Illinois. I mean, like, if you don't play well at this time of the year, especially in the playoffs, you're going home. You know, and you could play well and still might not win, because you're playing good teams. So, you know, you're one of 16, and you know, what's the most important, obviously, is what's next. It's the next game. You don't worry about anything down the road or anything behind you.
Well, the stage is set for this one, and you know, everybody looking forward to it. We missed football last weekend. Got an opportunity this weekend to take in both the football team, the nationally ranked basketball team. We get spoiled around here, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, Joe does a great job, and I see our women's team
undefeated
with Coach Carey, undefeated, starting off with a new coach. So. You know, and I know some of the other teams, volleyball, and I don't want to miss any, field hockey. It seemed like this fall everybody was pretty successful. And then you get into the winter, you know, season, which is a little different. We're on the, you know, front end of the winter season, so to speak, whereas basketball, you know, with both those teams takes over.
One other thing that just entered my mind about the recruiting end of it, from the standpoint, when you go this deep in the playoffs, you lose some time, though, don't you?
Well, it's one of 2 things. You either don't make the playoffs and you're on the road recruiting early, and that's like okay. I mean, you're out on the road recruiting, but you didn't make the playoffs. We kind of like it where we get out recruiting late because we've had a great season. You can make up for it, is I think the best way for me to explain it. In 17, you know, we made that run, and we played, I believe we lost on December 9th to West Florida. So we didn't really get out recruiting until we only recruited 1 week before the holidays, and then, you know, picked it up after New Year's. We're not into that early signing day anyway, so we recovered and had a pretty good year, you know, for the 18 class. So I'd rather win a lot of games and play late and go recruit late than be out there early recruiting and not make the playoffs. That's
go for that. Coach, good luck to you and the team. Get them healthy. We'll look to this weekend big time.
Thank you.
Coach Paul Tortorella, thank you one and all for attending here. We'll be back next week with another edition of our post-season Hawk Talk, coming to you live from the beautiful Hilton Garden Inn. Thanks to our staff here, do a terrific job too. And we'll see you Saturday with all kinds of happening here, right here at IUP. Jack Benedict bidding you a very pleasant good evening.
You know, I don't know if you realize this.